Hello and welcome to the Rangers Review. I suppose we could call this an afternoon brief, Joshua, but it's something slightly different, guys. What we're doing today, rather than doing the briefing style debate that we have every morning, that I know many of you really enjoy, what we're going to do today is we're going to have a wee deep dive into what's on the site. We're going to do this every day going forward. It's going to be slightly different, less interaction. We're going to keep that for the morning show. And it's going to be more about us talking what we're doing on the site on a day-to-day basis, what articles we've got up, what we've learned. And obviously, as part of that, we'll talk about what's going on with the Rangers and what's going on with the articles themselves and what's in them. The thing about the Rangers Review is we are, of course, unashamedly a subscription website. It's $2.99 a month to join. That gives you full ad-light access to the website. And frankly, it pays for the journalists that we have producing content every day. We know that people are watching the morning brief, and that's absolutely free on YouTube. But if you want to support that, and we'd like you to support it and to support us, go into the Rangers Review and subscribe. And that will also give you access not just to be able to watch us on the morning briefing every day, but also you are able to get everything that is on the website there if you do that. At the moment, it's just £1. You have only got to pay £1, and that keeps you going for your first 2 months, after which it reverts back to the standard $2.99 a month, which is, of course, only 10 pence a day, or slightly less for a lot of months when they have 31 days. So, without further ado, after that spiel, I'm going to pass over to Joshua, who's going to talk us through one of the 3 articles that we have on the site today that we're going to go into a little bit detail on. Now, of course, at the Rangers Review, we are not churning out story after story after story every day. We have news content on there under our news tab. If you want to get the latest stuff, what Chris Boyd's had to say, if you want to find out about the latest news from the club, that's all going to be under the news tab there. But if you want the detailed stuff, the deep dive stuff, the tactical analysis, the big interviews with former players, as you maybe haven't heard from in other places, the way to do that is to subscribe to the website itself. Now, what kind of content would you be getting? Well, first of all, let's start off with the day after a game, which is what we are today. And we'll start off with what we call our data match report. Now, we know in journalism, everyone does a match report. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And a wee bit of opinion sprinkled in through it straight after the game. We think it's a bit old hat, to be honest with you, because we know that most people are watching the game either through streaming, or they're at the game, or they're watching it on Sky. So what we want to do is we want to provide you a different type of match report, a match report that deals in facts. And Joshua, you're going to talk us through the data match report that we have for the game against Johnstone last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll let you get that up on screen as I get started. As you say, when you've watched the game, the day after the game, what do you want to know? And as a consumer of sport, you want to know detail, you want to know the whys. I think increasingly people want to know the whys as opposed to reading what has happened, as you say, Johnny. Having watched it, you want to understand some of the detail behind it. So this is one of a number of things that we'll do after a game. Our good colleague Derek Clark has done it today. And what we do with our partners at StatsBomb, we can bring you exclusive access to the best football data company in the world. So what I'll do is I'll speak you through the main visuals, just to give you a taste of, as we say, what you get as a subscriber. The first thing's called a trend line. And what a trend line does is it measures the expected goals, so the chances and the quality of chances, and it measures that throughout the game. And what that does is it gives you a picture of, okay, did Rangers create a lot of chances towards the end of the game? Did they have a flurry before half-time? How even was it? And last night, Johnny, as we discussed this morning, was a bad game of football. And that kind of is shown in the trend line. I think the main takeaway you can take from this is look at where the last chance Rangers had before 65 minutes. For that last 25 minutes, St Johnstone may not have had a chance, but as you said this morning, there was always that potential for something to happen, for something to go wrong, because the game was very dead by that point. The players are very tired. So the trend line's a very apt way of showing that.
Just on that, Joshua, the one thing that jumps out at me on that little one, which in terms of being someone who likes a wee gamble, you look up there and that gives you your the percentage chance that St Johnstone would have won that game was 3%. So only 3 times out of 100, based on the chances, according to StatsBomb, they would have won that game. Whereas Rangers would win it 73% of the time, draw 24% of the time. So it shows you, I suppose, how dominant they were, despite the fact we're quite frustrated by the performance.
Yeah, and it gives you a good picture. Van Bronckhorst said after, look, we gave them no chances, and that's true. And sometimes after watching a game, last night's a good example of it. It was very edgy, but I think a lot of that's within the context of recent dropped points. If you take that game in isolation, Rangers, as you say, never really lose it. They didn't give up any chances. So the trend line to start, we'll go down to the shot map, Johnny, which is my personal favourite. The reason being, you've got so much detail in it. You've got colours that correspond with the quality of chances. You've got different shapes which correspond with how the chance arrived, whether that be a header, a through ball, a cross, and obviously the location. So we can see, looking at Rangers' shots last night from their shot location, it is decent. It's not ideal. There's not many chances in and around the 6-yard box. And you can see from the expected goals tally of 1.31 that one goal was probably pretty fair based on the quality of chances that the Rangers created. And we can see the goal from Glenn Kamara, which is, my mouse is just hovering over just now, the orange triangle, which is a very good finish. He always seems to finish with great composure, Kamara, even though he only gets into those positions about once every 20 games. So the shot map,
he's got that great habit of passing the ball into the net, Joshua, which is always nice to see. I remember Mark Hateley telling me that Paolo Rossi told him about his finish when he was at AC Milan. He said, "Remember, Mark, you don't have to actually hit the net. You just have to get the ball over the line."
Yeah, well, very true. And Kamara, much like his finish against Hearts recently, certainly put that into practice. And if we go down, we can see what's called a freeze frame of this, Johnny. Now, what this does is it takes into consideration the player positions. What I really like about this one in particular is you look at this little corridor that Morelos has played the ball into Kamara. Number 6, Liam Gordon, was a player that was initially marking Morelos. He eventually couldn't track him because of the movement, and Kamara manages to break through with his third man run. He was being tracked by number 34, Jacob Butterfield. And again, gives a really nice visual representation of how the goal actually went in, where the players were, which is, again, really good detail if you want to look back at that. St Johnstone shot map from last night, they didn't really create much whatsoever. It was St Johnstone have only scored 18 goals this season. They're not a good attacking team. I don't think they're as good a team as they were last season when they were absolutely brilliant to win 2 cups. But again, very useful and interesting to know where their shots derived from. One out here, that was a hit and hope, we'll call that. The stats as well, a complete stat breakdown. So the interesting thing from me here, Johnny, is the pass completion rate, which was really low from Rangers, 76%. So about 1 in every 4 passes was going astray. Now, of course, the surface comes into play with that, undoubtedly. Nonetheless, Rangers, I still think, gave the ball up too much. And St Johnstone, I think you can see that in the number of passes. The ball was constantly turning over. There wasn't a lot of quality displayed throughout the game. So to go down even further, the pass network. Now, the pass network takes into account lots of things. The average positions, where players are receiving the ball. If you look at the thickness and the colour of the line, as you'll see at the bottom, which is really explained really well, you can see how common pass combinations were made, how dangerous pass combinations were made. So we can see here that Lundstrom and Bassi, that was quite a dangerous passing combination going forward. We can see the shape of the team was kind of in a loose 4-3-3, although it changed to a bit more of a 4-2-3-1 after the break. And for me, Johnny, the thing that stands out is the position of Scott Arfield. Normally, when he's playing out in this wide right position, he likes to come into these central pockets and combine with Morelos and whoever's playing in this right-hand side, most recently Ryan Jack. I thought he was quite isolated out here last night, and he suffered a little bit in possession because of that. You can also see the width that Ryan Kent played with, even if he didn't have his best game last night. And again, this is really useful because it corresponds to where the opposition play, and it gives a real nice idea of how the team shape worked and how the mechanisms worked between individual players.
Okay. Let's move on now to the. Bear in mind, Joshua, we don't want to go through the whole article. Let's move on to the next one on our list, which is you've actually had a real good look at Rangers' goal last night.
Yep.
And one of the things you've done in the past at the Rangers Review is have a real good look at what Rangers are doing with throw-ins and whether or not there's a rhyme and reason behind what they're doing and how structured it is. And this was a good example of how a throw-in can actually lead to a goal.
Yeah, and I'll be more succinct. I'll take your point. Rangers, as you say, there's a lot of throw-ins in a game. When we looked at it back, I think it was in October of last year, the point we were making was, look, the top teams are using this to their advantage, just as the top teams use set pieces to their advantage. It's a chance to kind of set the tone of the game, if you will. So what we've done is we've looked at this in greater detail because, as you say, we like to look at how chances arrived, what the build-up was like, and what happened in particular. And as you can see, often what happens in these situations, the ball goes down the line, possession's put up for grabs and kind of fought for. What Calvin Bassey does in this situation, he plays a nice little 1-2 with John Lundstrom, a 2v1, and that allows him to open the pitch. And if you look at the shape of St Johnstone here, Johnny, you can see they've really bunched up and overloaded on their right side to combat the what they presume is going to be a long throw-in. That means that when the ball goes to the right to Connor Goldson, they have to quickly come over and cover. You can see Butterfield here is looking over to the run of Kamara, but Morelos' movement coincides with the move behind of Kamara, and you can see here Liam Gordon, if you see his arm outstretched there, he's not able to go in and track Morelos because he knows he can't leave this space because of this position of Glenn Kamara just here. Down we go, and we can see how quickly and succinctly that moves through the pitch, and Kamara, as we showed above, is in a really good position to pass into the net. And just finally on this one, we've got the freeze frame there, but what else we've got, which is one of my favourite features of what we do at the Rangers Review, Johnny, is called a sequence. Again, it's colour coordinated in terms of how dangerous as the kind of expectation of a goal increases, but you can see a nice vertical move from left to right through the pitch, an excellent pass from Morelos and a good finish from Kamara. So that is a good example of some match analysis that we do after the game, going into more detail.
Yeah, and it's not just on the matches themselves, Josh. A couple of days back, we had a deep dive into Alan McGregor, which when we've got a day where there's not a game, we will take the time to actually drill into the big talking points. And we know that Alan McGregor is something we were talking about on the Daily Brief. We were discussing it with guys and ladies in the morning who were saying Alan McGregor should have been dropped for John McLaughlin. So you went away and actually dug into the detail that we have through our exclusive partnership with StatsBomb that really allows us, Joshua, to cut through the opinion and have a look at the hard facts. Now, data can be manipulated, of course, so we're not saying this is definitive. You can make things fit your view through data. However, what we're trying to do is to give you the information that backs up what people are saying or what we think, so you can understand what's going underneath the game a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. So a couple of key stats here, Johnny, which I'll go through quickly. The main one is this stat you see at the top of your screen, GSAA. And what GSAA stands for is goals saved above average. And what that's looking at is based on the quality of shot that a goalkeeper is facing, is he saving an above average number of those? Last season, Alan McGregor saved over 5 goals. Now, we know he had an absolutely fantastic season, Johnny, arguably the greatest of his career. His form was a big part in Rangers breaking the defensive record. So what we've went and done is we've looked at, okay, how does that compare to this season amongst a number of other statistics? Now, on the surface, a drop to 2.31 is a drop. It's a drop of 3 goals, but it's not terrible, and it probably doesn't tell the whole story of what McGregor's form has been like, in particular since the turn of the year. So what we can then go and do is break that down even further. And what I went and did is as I looked at McGregor's form in 3 separate parts. So we've got before Van Bronckhorst arrived, the initial kind of manager bounce when Van Bronckhorst arrives, and then post-Christmas. And post-Christmas, McGregor's number was less impressive than it was beforehand. So you can see here under Gerrard, his goal saved above average was in the negative. So he's conceded more than he'd be expected to. We can see when Van Bronckhorst came in, it jumps up to, again, 2.88. So he's saving more than he's expected to. And then we can see since the turn of the year, it's about 0, so about an average performance. But we can go even deeper than that and look at even just the last couple of games. And I've got the stats here. The Motherwell game, Johnny, which we spoke a lot about, Alan McGregor made 2 bad mistakes. his goal saved above average was a negative 0.78, which corresponds with the second goal and why Rangers ultimately dropped points. So as you say, it doesn't always tell the full story, but putting that together with a bit of analysis, putting that together with a bit of opinion allows us to cut through and say, how many shots is he actually saving? What is his save percentage? Is he better than last season? Is he worse? And I think that's a really useful thing for supporters when they're trying to evaluate the performance of key individuals. So McGregor, to summarise, has had kind of 3 parts to his season. And I concluded it with saying he could have a 4th, but the risk for Rangers is, do you want to take that and risk another couple of performances where, as the data shows, he has been below par on occasion recently?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, guys, we wanted to show you some of the content we have on there through our partnership with StatsBomb. It's obviously not all as geeky as that. I mean, I barely understand this stuff as it is, so I'm the guy in the corner doing the opinion pieces and doing the interviews alongside Derek. We leave all the stats geekery to Joshua, who understands it fully and explains it really well, and I hope you have got a sense of that, because if you read this stuff, I think you will learn a lot about Rangers and how they play. I certainly do every day. So what I would say is, guys, go and support us, support what we do, and subscribe. I have put a link in there in the comments. If you want to go on, it's just £1 for 2 months. And then after that, it goes back to the normal price of $2.99. We're going to continue to do this over the next couple of weeks. Just give you a sense of what we're doing on the website. We won't always focus on stat stuff. We'll also go and look at a big interview if we've done one of those. Maybe throw in a few clips. I've got an interview with Martin Waghorn coming up on the site in the next few days that I think everyone will enjoy. Sat down with Martin for about an hour, chatted through all the aspects of his career. So I hope you guys will look forward to that one. I think you will enjoy it. But as I say, you know what to do. There's a subscribe button. There's a subscribe link there, and obviously subscribe as well to YouTube, which is free. But, what we're doing is we're asking you to go in there and take part in that offer. That is absolutely fantastic and won't be on forever. I think that finishes on March the 9th. So take advantage of that £1 deal while it's there. Guys, thank you for watching. We're going to shoot off now. But of course, we will be back tomorrow morning with a much more interactive Q&A looking at the various issues of the day. So get your questions ready for us. Fire them in the comments and we'll be desperate to answer them for you. I think it's going to be all 3 of us. Is Derek in tomorrow? Yes, me, you and Derek, Josh?
Believe so. We'll get him to do some work.
If I get out of my bed in time, that is, but we'll have our fingers crossed on that one. Guys, thanks very, very much for watching, and we'll talk to you very,